So picture this, you're scrolling through your phone and it feels like it's just headline after headline after headline of bad news, scandals, disasters, the stock market's crashing, and it feels like everything's on fire. You're feeling anxious and you have that pit in your stomach, but you can't stop scrolling. Does this sound familiar? What if this media isn't just reflective of the negativity in the world around us, but it's actually designed to be this way? Let's unpack why news and digital media, especially social media, has become so pessimistic, how it's tied to human psychology, and how these platforms are profiting off of our attention. But before we flesh out this whole mess, hi, my name's Kate, and I make content on intentional living, financial literacy, and developing our relationships with social media and digital technology more broadly. To understand why we as humans are drawn to negative content so much, we have to go way back in time. It all starts with something called the negativity bias. Back in the day, our ancestors survived on focusing on threats. Things like predators, bad weather, which berries were poisonous or not, you get the picture. Paying attention to danger was literally a matter of life or death, so we kind of had to do it. But the thing is, we haven't really evolved very far from that in a psychological standpoint. That same negativity bias is alive and well, even in our modern brains. Except now, instead of focusing on something like a predator that's about to eat you, it's headlines like economic collapse is looming or your city is failing you. These are what are drawing our attentions. Our brains light up like fireworks when we see negative or alarming information, and media platforms know this. This is why so much of the media, both digital and social media, but also TV news, have you watched that these days? It's getting a little absurd. But it feels like everyone's shouting over each other that everything is falling apart and the world is ending and what are we to do? If you saw a headline that said something like a local park got a new tree, I don't know, something exciting, you might scroll right past it. But if the headline said toxic waste was found in the park or something a little darker, you'd probably click on it. It would win your attention versus the more uplifting news story, and that's negativity bias. It's not your fault. It's literally human psychology. It's baked into us. News companies and social platforms are taking advantage of this. It's not a coincidence that you're seeing this negative content everywhere now. So this is where things start to get more interesting and a little bit scary. The attention economy is the idea that your attention is a valuable commodity. Platforms like Facebook, Instagram, news websites, even YouTube make money by keeping you on their site as long as possible. The more time you spend scrolling, clicking, engaging, the more ads they can serve you, and the more money they can make. So here's where the two start to play together. The easiest way to grab your attention and keep it isn't through those feel-good stories or really nuanced reporting. Rather, it's that content that sparks that emotional, guttural reaction, especially anger, fear, outrage. And what sparks those emotions the best? It's that negative content feeding into our human psychology. Studies have shown that emotionally charged content, be it political outrage or celebrity scandals, get shared more often and keep people engaged for longer. That's why your feed might feel like a nonstop barrage of bad news, crisis, and drama. The uncomfortable and scary truth is when you spend hours of your time scrolling through this content, you're not just a passive consumer, you're the product. Your attention is being bought and sold to the highest bidder. And I know this a little too well as someone who's worked in ads at TikTok in the past. It's scary to think about how these platforms are literally manipulating our human psychology to raise their own revenue and profit from just stealing our attention and time from us. The top engineering talent in the world will go and work for a company like Google or Meta because they pay so much, and their skills and intellect will literally be used to engineer ways to make these platforms more addictive, to keep your attention for longer, and ultimately raise the profits of these companies. They're really squeezing every last dollar out of all of us. I'd be remiss if I didn't tie this back to one of the most famous media theorists of our time, McLuhan. He's famous for saying the medium is the message, but what does that mean? It all boils down to the theory that the way we communicate, the medium itself, shapes society more than the actual content of the message. In McLuhan's time, he was talking about how the invention of TV changed the way that we consumed information. But his theory applies perfectly to today's ad-supported platforms. These platforms, whether it's social media or YouTube or news sites are all built to be monetized via advertisements. By having ad inventory on their sites or on their platforms, they can then sell this to advertisers who can benefit from reaching you while you are giving this platform all of your time and attention. Because of that ad-supported nature, these platforms are designed to amplify the content that keeps you on there the longest. And as we've been discussing thus far, it's usually the negative, sensational stuff. In other words, it's the fact that these mediums are ad-supported platforms that really impact all of this. Given that these companies and platforms make their revenue from ads, they don't just deliver these negative messages, they create them, they expand on them, and they amplify them. The negativity isn't a bug, it's a feature. All this negativity isn't just annoying, it's dangerous. Constant exposure to negative content can lead to stress, anxiety, and even a sense of hopelessness. It can make you feel like the world is worse than it actually is and discourage you from taking action to change and make things better. This feeling of overwhelm can also drive you to spend even more time on the platforms that are perpetuating this negative content in the first place. If you've ever turned to Instagram or TikTok to decompress and unwind and maybe feel a little bit better about your day, you know that this is true. When we're overwhelmed by negativity, we're more likely to disengage entirely. We stop voting, we stop organizing, and we stop feeling like we can make a difference. And I'm not saying that that is what these platforms want, but they do want to squeeze all that money out of you. So they need your eyeballs and they need you to keep scrolling because they're all public companies that are beholden to their shareholders who will only be satisfied if that revenue keeps going up and to the right. It's mind-boggling to me that we've let the system come this far and this is how we're just allowing it to be built. But here's the good news. You don't have to play this game. There are ways that you can take back your attention and time and protect your mental health. Certain platforms might allow you to curate your feed and follow specific creators that help bring you uplifting content or add value to your life, not just drama and outrage. Perhaps I could be one of those creators you follow if you so choose, just saying. You can also set boundaries with the tech and digital media you consume by turning off notifications or having dedicated phone-free times throughout the day. I know personally, I have had to turn off notifications for basically any news site that I follow because more often than not, it's just negative garbage that they are pushing to me because they want to get my eyes on the site. I'm aware of it, I'm conscious of it, and I will choose to consume the news that I want to when I am good and ready. I don't need a notification of a negative headline to draw me into that. Another thing that you can do is just generally be mindful, be intentional. Pay attention to how that media is making you feel. If you're consuming something that's leaving you feeling stressed or anxious, it's okay to just not consume it, even if everyone else around you is. We get to be intentional and create our own boundaries here. And I encourage you to take back that agency and control of the situation. The attention economy only works if we let it. By being intentional about how we consume media, we can push back against the negativity. And maybe, if enough of us do it, we can even demand better from the platforms that we use. Does this change the way that you feel about the digital media you consume? Have you taken any steps yourself to navigate your own relationship with the negativity that is often swirling on social media? Let me know in the comments down below. I would love to have a discussion about this. I know I personally basically no longer watch any cable news. I think it's all garbage to keep us watching and just have high ratings so they can sell it back to advertisers. But I could unpack that in another day. If you found this helpful or informative, definitely like, comment, and subscribe to follow along. Check out some of my other content on our relationships with social media and digital technology. And thanks so much for tuning in. We'll talk again soon. Bye.